Good morning. Let's see. Over the past 30 years, video depositions have proven to be exceedingly successful for the legal industry. The ability to convey emotion and express a witness's apparent authenticity, there it is, directly to a jury has the power to make or break a case in the courtroom. The next level of evolution in this expanding area of litigation support is the picture-in-picture deposition. So what exactly is a picture-in-picture deposition? Well, let's start with the history of it. About 25 years ago, my Aunt Kathleen used to carry 2 cameras and one of the big, analog mixer boards to and from depositions that she would shoot. Back then it was less about integrating exhibits though and more about keeping people honest with regard to deposition etiquette. The picture-in-picture aspect was only really utilized to ensure the questioning attorney wasn't provoking the witness in an unethical manner. It wasn't until decades later that computer and document camera technology caught up so that deposition videography could be used more as a presentation tool and less as an integrity monitor. So how does it work? Well, there are 2 different ways you can produce a picture-in-picture deposition. Some firms choose to do all the picture-in-picture content during post-production. Back at their office. We found this to be a little problematic as it opens the door for objections and the potential for the video to be thrown out by the judge. At that point, you may have a very unhappy client on your hands as well. So that's why 10 years ago, we made the decision to capture and produce our picture-in-picture depositions in real time during the deposition. Now, in order to do that, we needed to figure out what method made the most sense for us as a small business. We had a choice between buying expensive computers with even more expensive software or an expensive mixer board small enough to fit in a video dep kit to do the switching manually. Now, we all know that computers can sometimes have a mind of their own. And because of that, can be temperamental and somewhat unreliable at times. And those are 2 words none of us want to associate with our businesses. You could have a virus, the operating system could update at the wrong time and cause a system crash. There could be codec conflicts, motherboard power surges that cause damage, or even permanent hard disk failures. A number of different things that could happen. Anyone that's ever fried a computer knows what kind of headaches that can cause as well. Now, it's not all bad when using a computer to do your picture-in-picture switching. Certainly there are more functionality options due to the plethora of software that's currently available. There are more editing features and encoding options as well. However, we ultimately decided that our videographers were exactly that, videographers, and not computer scientists. So there was just too much uncertainty involved, too much risk involved in such a large investment for the business. Well, some of you may be thinking, well, there are companies that build that kind of stuff specifically, that strictly for this type of purpose, and you're correct. There's companies like Blackmagic. They build and support some of the most beautiful broadcast quality setups you've ever seen. And if you think the ROI makes sense with the purchase price, which can be astronomical, feel free to try it out. Just keep in mind it may be a few years until it starts paying for itself, if at all. So we decided to go with manual switching technology, like the unit you see before you down here, and you can feel free to come up and check it out afterwards. That way we had a simple and effective way to produce picture-in-picture content without breaking the bank or requiring our staff to become computer specialists, although it does take a degree of skill and awareness to know when to switch to the picture-in-picture feed. And for that, there's no substitute for experience in the field. For a trained videographer, using the mixer board comes natural. All of your inputs and outputs are labeled accordingly. And with a little bit of playing around, the interface is easy to utilize and modify. So what can you do with a picture-in-picture deposition? Well, the answer is pretty much anything. We've had jobs where we hooked up a digital microscope to our setup so that a doctor could explain an injury while the jury looks directly at the slide with the specimen on it, the actual specimen. We've done deps where an attorney will show exhibits through trial presentation software on a laptop, then switch to an excerpt from a video deposition from a separate witness, Then play a digital animation from an iPad. Then use an Elmo to explain where the injury happened on a physical model. Then tie it all together by manually writing a checklist under the Elmo and marking it as an exhibit. The potential is endless. Even a product like Exhibio is easily integrated into a picture-in-picture setup. We've even seen attorneys that have had no exhibits during their depositions. And the reason is they just liked having the capability there. So, just in case. Picture-in-picture videography is helping attorneys to embrace the future of litigation technology. Of course, there are those that naturally resist change because people can be afraid of it. But times are changing, and these days, new law school grads were basically born with iPads in their hands. So they will expect to use technology like picture-in-picture. And you can bet it will become much more commonplace in the coming years. Thank you.
Nope. Sheldon, what brand is your manual switching technology?
It's a Roland V4 3X, I think it is. So Roland is basically a big brand name when it comes to audio production equipment, audio and video production equipment.
You know, Michael, what I was thinking is, could you maybe explain to us the setup?
Sure.
And maybe expound a little bit on what the videographer's tasks, additional duties would be in this sort of an arena?
Sure. Well, the videographer is going to be responsible for knowing when to do the switching at just the right time. And like I said before, there's no excuse, or there's no nothing besides experience that can help him learn how to do that, really. The videographer will have to learn to integrate the different types of media. iPad's real easy to hook up. Elmo, like you see down here, is real easy to hook up. Laptops are easy. I mean, you just plug it in, really. You plug it in and you see it on the screen. When the attorney starts referring to it, you switch it. And then when they stop referring to it, maybe they go to a different line of questioning, you switch back. So you just, like I said, you have to have that kind of awareness to understand so that the video rolls nice and smoothly, essentially. So, but yeah, I mean, the possibilities are literally endless to what sort of applications you can integrate into the actual video deposition to be played for the jury.
Mark.
Well, I don't want to take away from Jim's time. Do you want me to wait till the end or ask him?
No, go right.
We have time?
I think I was short anyway, so.
I do videography for my agency as well. I actually shoot video. And I do dual camera as well, picture-in-picture. Now, the dual camera that you're doing, I understand there's differentiation between dual camera and picture-in-picture.
Well, it used to be dual camera. That was back before Elmos were digital. That was back when Elmos had a big bulb and, they would go on a white screen like that. So once the digital technology came along, it was a lot easier.
Well, I do it differently. I do the dual camera on the witness.
Sure.
And then I integrate picture-in-picture, whether it be an Elmo, computer, whatever.
Sure, we've done it that way too, yeah.
My question is, are you shooting at standard or high def?
That's a good question. And right now, the industry standard is standard definition. It's been kind of a painful process too, because as you know, everything takes several years to catch up, with regard to technology in the legal industry. We're still about 5–10 years behind for whatever reason, cost, et cetera. But yeah, it's, I lost my train of thought.
I agree it doesn't have to be Hollywood for these things because it's jury.
I'm sorry?
I agree that it does not have to be Hollywood. HD quality.
Sure.
And some of these standard cameras are pretty darn near HD, and they're fine. But my question is, if you wanted to go to HD, are there any that you could tell me time, dates, generators? Because in Jersey, everything has to be time, dates, and all that. You can feed a two HD camera system into.
Meaning?
Standard, but I haven't found one yet for HD.
You're not talking about the time stamp on the screen. You're talking about like a digital encoding file so that it understands the time.
Because if you have two cameras and you volley between the cameras, you can never get the time date exactly the same.
I see what you mean.
So you need that central time date generator.
Not particularly. I mean, when we switch to an HD job, because generally when we do that, we won't have the timestamp on the exhibit camera. It'll just be on the witness camera. So that's why we haven't really run across that issue before, if it was a situation like that. So just to be honest with you. But yeah, the HD, I mean, I've been harping on this for a while. I would love if we could transfer over to HD. I mean, the file sizes are going to be a lot bigger, obviously. It's going to be more work in post-production, but it's going to be worth it in the long run, and eventually it's going to have to happen. So.
The other issue is the other issue is that in courtrooms you need a Blu-ray player to play back HD. A lot of that standard DVD players. So, now you give it to your client, he brings it to the court, and the court play it back, or now you have to provide a courtroom opera. Now you have to provide somebody going to support it with giving the Blu-ray player. So, I mean, that's kind of the issue also.
You're saying if you gave the client a Blu-ray, or
if you gave it something on HD,
right.
You cannot play that on a standard DVD player, correct?
Right, you would have to play a digital file through a laptop or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, or because I mean, you can burn to a Blu-ray, but yeah, like not everybody necessarily is equipped for it. I mean, we'll bring equipment to the courtroom, of course, but
Courthouse that just came over VHS to DVD.
right, basically. Yeah, especially over at Dirksen. I mean, they're just now getting all the new equipment installed in the courtrooms. So before then, it was they had tube TVs crawling around there. But yeah, it's moving. It's moving in a good direction, I think. Any other questions?
What are you using for the recording media? So you run the signals in, and then that signal comes out. So what are you recording to?
I was expecting that question too. It's a tricky situation because of United States piracy laws are really the reason. There are certain restrictions that manufacturers of equipment have on what they can manufacture in order to record HD content or even standard def content. We have been using the small Sony decks, but as I'm sure you know, they stopped making them. And there are other solutions that we've been kind of experimenting with, in particular with high def, because I mean we can use a high def recorder to record standard def content either way. But yeah, it's like I said, there are some new devices out there that are working. We just bought an Atmos Ninja, trying that out. There's Blackmagic encoders that'll do it. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Some are more expensive than others. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things that there's not really a standard right now. It's just whatever you can do, whatever you can get is where it's at. I mean, I was trying to build my own computer system in order to do the switching myself a little while back. And in order to get the capture card, you have to order it from Asia because they don't manufacture them here. So it's tricky. It's tricky figuring that out.
Another question. I've noticed too, I've seen the video mixers, they will take 480p or other, some deep higher as an input, but none of them spit out, that I've seen, maybe there's some that cost a lot of money, that will actually spit out an HD quality. It'll take HD input, but then it's an SD out.
Right. Well, you have to look a little bit carefully at the resolution, the actual resolution on the unit. Our rolling unit down here, it'll do high def content. It'll spit it out as well and process it and produce it. But it only goes up to 720p. So it's still high def content. It's just not 1080. And the 1080 ones are out there. They're just a little bigger, a little more expensive. Those are the newer units, and they'll be coming up soon, I'm sure. So, anything else?
I can't talk technique because I can't talk the techie work like you, so don't ask me those questions. But I will tell you that we do picture-in-picture, and it is what's wowing the attorneys, and it is our fastest growing service because the attorneys love that at the time of the depo, you're capturing the video,
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, we have clients that say we're only doing picture-in-picture depositions from now, and that's it. So we love this technology. That's what we're doing. Every single one of them. So like Greg Copeland and Crane, all picture-in-picture from him. So anything else?
I have a question for you. I'm assuming the attorneys in some situations will have a monitor in this case for picture-in-picture.
Yes.
What type of monitor do you suggest?
There's a couple different ones out there. I mean, we have a set of, I can't even remember the brand name, but they're about the size of an iPad, and they look just like an iPad too. But they have an HDMI and a VGA input, the mini versions of them. And what we'll do is we'll set up a distribution amp on the middle of the table, and then we'll just have all the monitors facing the attorneys right around the middle there. So they can grab it, they can pull it closer to them, and they can see everything that everyone is seeing at the same time. So that way.
We use a 13-inch monitors. It seems to work well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we use those as well. We have different monitors for different situations, though. Sometimes if we got to pack into a tiny, I think, where was I? University of Chicago Medical Center. I was in the smallest room I've ever been in my life for a picture-in-picture deposition in there. So I couldn't even fit the backdrop in. But yeah, it worked. So.
Just real quick, do you become the technician for the entire demo at that point?
Yes, I would say yes.
Anything else before we move on to Jim?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.